found out I had the same classes, the Shamantava classes that Shahid Kapoor went to. It really didn't work out for me the same way it worked out for him. That's all I can say. Why? Was there a problem with me? No. It was just I didn't share this. Soha, you have been a successful actor, an author, a patoli, an amazing mother. A lot of people talk about these things, and mostly the conversations are around them. But what I really want to highlight, and it was amazing, that she has actually graduated from Oxford University, and that was not enough. She graduated from Oxford and then from London School of Economics, two of the toughest universities to get into. So my question to you is, how in your early years did you understand that, oh my God, education is so important, I need to make it to the top colleges of the world?
Firstly, thank you for that very generous introduction. I come from a family that is a little non-traditional in terms of education, in terms of passions, in terms of career, and all of you are probably familiar with their choices. But I'm the most qualified person in my family, which evidently doesn't translate into most successful by any means. So of course a formal education is not necessarily the way to go to be quote-unquote successful or happy or rich or anything. I really genuinely enjoyed academics as a child. And my parents were flummoxed by this actually. My father of course was a professional sports person. My mother didn't go to university. My father went to Oxford, but I don't think he attended any classes. He was on the cricket field. My brother didn't go to university. My sister was a jewelry designer. So I wanted to study history. And even at that point, my parents said, well, what will you do with history as a subject? You can teach, but I mean, it's not really practical. And a lot of people from this country go abroad and we study business and finance and things that will amount to something. And I said, no, I just really enjoy history as a subject. All credit to my favorite teacher, Mrs. Uppal, who taught me history. So a lot of what we want to become is because of the people in our lives, our mentors. And you can make anything fascinating if you have a passion for it and are able to impart that knowledge in an engaging way. And I just knew that I wanted to continue studying. I didn't think about why I wanted to have that education. My father did encourage me to go to Oxford also because he did study there. His father also studied there. And it's a wonderful place, not just because of what you would learn, but because of the whole experience of going there if you're fortunate to go there. But of course there are other places that one can go. And I really took time to understand what it is that I wanted to do in life. And I'm still not sure, if I'm in the right place or I'm in a zoo or not. I probably am in a zoo, but and that's okay. I feel like today's world is about being fluid and evolving and adapting, and that's a very important character trait to have, to be able to evolve. And if the pandemic has taught any of us that, it's that ability to be able to change and pivot and deal with life. And I think that why a good education is important is because it helps you to identify what makes you uniquely you, what you can contribute to society, and how you can be the best version of yourself, and how you can unlock your passions and then live your passions and hopefully, also build a career and a profession and make money off your passions. And that would be the purpose of a good education and good teachers. And again, good parents, because I do really equate parents with being teachers, even though I was a terrible teacher during the pandemic. So I appreciate teachers, but I feel like all of these things are supposed to bring out what is best in you, identify what already exists, and hone that.
That's the learning has gone completely hybrid, right? Your child must have been introduced to online learning, digital tools, apps. So did you find technology helpful in teaching Inaya through the times of COVID and as we continue into a very hybrid world?
Absolutely. Firstly, I have to say that I resist change as a personality. And perhaps having studied history, I've just sort of have felt that it takes me a lot of time to get on board with new things. So even when it came to online education when it came to iPads and educational apps and play education. I resisted it for the longest time. Even when it, I enjoy reading, and my husband bought Kindle and was reading off a Kindle and all of that, and I was like, no, I don't want to do that. Knowing all the good reasons why we should go paperless, etc. It's just because it takes me time to transition. And the pandemic really helped me to do that. Of course, it was incredibly invaluable in terms of just sustaining life for many people, livelihoods for many people, education for many people. And Inaya, of course, was very young. She was 2.5 or 3 when the pandemic started, but she had started going to school. And we managed to continue seamlessly education. Of course, one had to be present because as a 2.5-year-old, 3-year-old, you cannot expect them to sit in front of an iPad. So you had to literally glue her down and, thank God for mute buttons is all I can say. But now she's learned how to unmute as well, which is terrible. But, it was a struggle. But it really, of course, has enabled access, enabled people to teach, not just people who are physically with you, but across continents. There's so much that we already know in terms of what an online education or the online world brings. Of course, as humans, we generally tend to lose perspective, lose a sense of balance, and it suddenly translates into things that are negative, and it becomes like anything else. You will find evil in everything. So, of course, it's up to us to strike a balance, because excess of anything will be bad for you. And certainly when it comes to digital space and screen time for young children, I'm very aware of creating a balance. But even in school, like we were discussing earlier, the digital tools that are being used to teach, the future certainly, the coding and things like that. We're going to have to embrace this, and there are wonderful things about it. So I think that it's impossible not to, it would be foolish of us not to include digital education into our lives, and it needs to be done responsibly. That's the thing. I think when it comes to the digital space and social media and things like this, the problems comes when you're not responsible, and then you open yourself up because so much of it is anonymous and so much of it is unseen entities, especially children who can be vulnerable to these things. So you have to be aware. There have to be boundaries, and you have to be cognizant of these things, I think. But certainly, as I'm happy to say now that there is play education in Naya's life, and I can see her respond. I see the difference between passively watching television, watching a show, and her, sitting back literally and enjoying it, and her doing something interactive on an iPad where it's play education, and you can see that her brain is being utilized, so I can see that there's a benefit in that. And I can also see how quick she is to grasp things, especially when it's taught like that. And I can see the advantage of a customized form of education that she gets as well through this kind of approach, which even though she's fortunate enough to go to school, and I know that she stands apart by having this experience where there's only 12 or 13 children in her class and there are 2 teachers, that is not the reality for most people in this country. In spite of that, we had a parent-teacher conference today, and you know that it's impossible for them to give that individualized attention to every child. But through customizing your education online, you can actually do that. But again, as I said, that balance is very important.
Your entire family is full of cricketers, actors with an interest in music, and authors and jewelry designers. I mean, you guys have pretty much accomplished every single dream that is there. So, how important do you think is the power of dreams, and what are the values that the children need to have to accomplish these dreams?
I think, dreams are very powerful, and I have noticed, because my child has just turned 5, they dream, they think the unimaginable. And what we do often is just bring them back to reality and tell them it's not possible, and we close doors in their minds. We think we're protecting them, we don't want them to get hurt. We know that the world is a competitive place. We want them to be successful. We impose our own dreams on them. But we're constantly sort of telling them how to think. And I've been guilty of that myself. Whereas what we should be doing, is to listen and empower where possible. comes to dreams, I'm actually a non-dreamer. I started a dream diary because either I forget very quickly, I'd like to think that I forget very quickly and I'm not so boring, because my husband dreams with intervals and climaxes and full scripts. And I'm like, I don't know, but I don't know. So I feel like maybe some people are also not dreamers, and we have to also be aware of that. I think it's wonderful when you have a dream and a passion, and then it's about executing that. The challenge is, what is your dream? Articulating that dream when you're not able to do it yourself, and finding your dream. And that is when the true challenge comes, because we're all kinds of people, and really we need to cater to all kinds of people. As I said, my commitment is to listen. And when my daughter says, and I say, what's your favorite animal? And she says, unicorn. It's not to tell her, not magical, not imaginary. I just say that, and she says, are unicorns real? I say, well, I haven't seen one, but that's not to say that they don't exist. Because, I don't know for a fact. How can I say that? And there's so much that we, as a society, buy into without actually seeing it for ourselves with our own eyes. So how are we to know that unicorns don't exist? And tomorrow, if you want to grow up and be a purple unicorn, great, I'll try and help you do that. And hopefully, that dream will change soon. But if it won't, then I'll be there for you. So that's what I would like to do.
Nice. So how do you inculcate values like integrity into your children? When, children are so busy, they barely have time to spend with their parents. But what do you do? What do you cite examples, share stories? How do you integrate integrate values system?
Most answers to life are simple, isn't it? It's just practicing as that's hard. You live the example. And my father is 90, he lives with me. And I feel that he has taught me everything that matters in my life. How just living that life, right? And in fact, I was having this conversation with my daughter. My children are older, 29 and 24. And there's a lot of pressure today to be somebody too soon. And the advantage I had was growing up in a very, very, small neighborhood where everybody was very middle class. And I consider that as the biggest gift I got, because there was really no pressure. Be whatever you want to be, and there were really no lofty expectations that I had to pay. So they were my own, whatever those were. But unfortunately, my children born to privilege have a very different set of expectations for themselves, regardless of my expectations for them. I just want them to be happy human beings and healthy human beings. That
Of our panel, it was beautiful to have you.